Hai, Assalamualaikum everyone. Kita dah sampai chapter 4 which is analyzing investing activities. So let's move on with our lecture. This will be our topic objective. So first one, I'm going to introduce you to current assets. I'm sure that you have heard or do about current assets so many times. So this is just a revisit on your chapters. Next one, kita akan look on inventories, about inventories valuation and also analyzing inventories. About valuation also, I think that all of you have learned in your Math 151. It's about FIFO, LIFO and also weighted average method. Next, kita nak tengok on the long-term assets, and the last one is plant asset and natural resources. Before we move on analyzing the investing activities, these are the introduction. So, why effective management operating assets is essential. So, first one is when you have the asset management, it helps you to keep track of all your assets, including you punya vehicles, equipment, and also your investment. So, it is very important to help the company monitor and also manage their asset using a systemized approach. So, if the assets is managed effectively, you can get benefit in terms of improvement to productivity and also efficiency, which place the business in a better position to increase their return on investment. These are the classification of assets. So assets is classified to the current ataupun short-term asset and also the non-current, which is the long-term assets. So the short-term asset refers to the resources or claims that expected to be sold or collected or used within 1 year. Okay, so example of current asset adalah cash and cash equivalent, account receivables, inventory and also prepaid expenses. Next adalah the long-term asset, which is the resources or claim to the resources that are expected to yield benefit that extend beyond 1 year. And then the example would be the fixed asset, intangible and also deferred charges. These are the alternative classification of assets. So you can also classify your asset as operating assets or financial assets. So operating assets adalah aset yang related to operating activities such as you punya cash, account receivables, inventory, PPE and prepayment of operating expenses. And then untuk financial assets, aset yang tidak berkaitan directly dengan operating activities. For example, asset that comes from the marketable securities. You punya investment such as equity investment in mana-mana company. Okay, that is not related to your main activities ataupun you punya main operation. Moving on to the introduction to current assets. So the definition of current asset adalah that includes cash, other assets that are convertible to cash, usually within the operating cycle of the company, which is 1 year. So current asset ni ada 3 yang utama, which is cash and cash equivalents, you punya receivables and also prepaid expenses. This one adalah you punya gambaran untuk operating cycle. So it refers to the time when purchases until the collection of cash resulting from sale of goods and services. So inilah operating cycle untuk perniagaan. Okay, so first one dekat sini, you beli you punya goods or service. Okay, you simpan dalam you punya inventory. Lepas tu you jual. If you jual secara kredit, you akan ada receivable. So, bila you ada receivable, yang ini adalah tempoh untuk you collect back you punya debt. So, bila you dah collect, dia akan turn up to the cash. Dan bila you ada cash, you akan beli the goods or service again and the cycle starts again. Moving on to working capital. Working capital adalah the excess of current assets over current liabilities. So, tu lebihan current asset bila kita compare dengan current liabilities. So, managing working capital is crucial because it entails the entire operation. So when you want to increase your profitability and also increase cash flow, you might want to reduce your investment in your current asset, okay, like using JIT management ataupun collect receivables dengan lebih cepat. So in addition, the company may finance a large portion of current assets through current liabilities in attempt to reduce the working capital. This is cash and cash equivalent. So cash adalah the most liquid asset that the company have. So that includes the currency and also funds on deposit. And then untuk cash equivalent, it is highly liquid short-term investment that are readily convertible to cash. Maksudnya now it is not in term of cash, but it is readily convertible to cash. So near maturity, that minimal risk of price changes could happen. So this one, the investment is dekat-dekat nak mature, so harga dia takkan berubah sangat. Okay, so that is cash equivalent. Example of the cash equivalent adalah the short-term treasury bills, commercial papers, and also money market funds. So here, the cash and cash equivalent is important to serve the liquidity of the company because the highly liquid, the company yang paling liquid adalah company yang ada cash and cash equivalent yang lebih tinggi in the current asset portions. When you want to analyze the cash and cash equivalent, so you might want to consider this one. Okay, the extent of cash and cash equivalent invested in equity securities. This one referring to you punya cash equivalent. So kalau lebih banyak cash equivalent you berbentuk investment dalam security, there are a risk that bila value of those investment jatuh, dia akan reduce you punya liquidity. And then sometimes this cash and cash equivalent, dia diperlukan untuk maintain the compensating balance to support existing borrowing. Ni maksudnya, kalau sebelum ni you ada borrow money from bank, let's say, you ada cagarkan you punya account receivable. So, you kena maintain that balance. Okay, if not, you might violate the agreement between you and the bank lah. Or there might be cases bila you pinjam duit daripada bank, bank akan make a provision for you to keep certain amount of cash balance. So bila cash balance tu jatuh, maksudnya you mungkin dah violate the agreement between you and the bank. These are receivables. Receivables ni ada 3 kategori, which is sama ada dia adalah account receivable. Account receivable adalah amount yang due to the company that rise from the sales of goods and services, ataupun notes receivables that refers to a formal written promise of indebtedness due. Maksudnya you bagi hutang kepada orang. Okay, so you ada that written promise that is called note receivable, surat hutang. And also other receivables like you have loans to the employee ataupun loans to the company directors ataupun such claims for tax refund. That one is also receivables. In terms of valuation of receivables, the valuation is at the net realizable value, which indicates that tak semua receivable kita akan collect. Okay, remember the term allowance for doubtful debt, that one. Okay, that indicate that kita jual secara hutang, but not all will be collected. So amount yang kita doubt to be collected, kita akan make allowance for that. So those uncollectible amount, dia akan write off against the allowance account and it will be deducted in the receivables dalam SOFP kita. So the expected loss, which is the doubtful debt, kita akan anggap dia sebagai operating expenses. So when you want to analyze the receivables, you must consider the collectibility, which is the changes to the allowance. So, bila kita nak analyze the receivable, it is important for the analyst to recognize the possibility of error in judgment to their ultimate collection. Okay, kita kena analyze sama ada berlaku tak kesilapan masa dia set up the allowance tu. Okay, so kita kena aware that the management ada incentive to report a higher income and assets. Hence, these two important questions must be asked. So, what is the collection risk? How authentic is the receivables? First one, we're going to look at the collection risk in analyzing receivables. So, kebanyakan provision untuk account receivable yang tak boleh collect ni, uncollectible ni adalah based on experience, which means that the manager ataupun the business, dia dah over years, dia dah develop the kebiasaan. Contoh macam kalau dia jual 100,000, dia akan estimate that mungkin 2% is bad debt ataupun doubtful debt. So benda tu adalah based on experience yang dia punya over the years lah, yang dihadapi over the years. So masa kita as analyst must bear in mind formula untuk kira the provision for bad debt ni is very easy, right? Because contoh macam 5% daripada 100,000. So 5% darab dengan 100,000, macam tu je. So it might contain error. Therefore, this analyst, dia kena rely on the knowledge of the industry untuk reliably assess dia punya provision for uncollectibles. So you have to be vigilant. You kena tahu macam mana industri tu operates untuk assess betul ataupun tidak banyak tu dia punya provision for uncollectibles. So, among analysis tools yang kita boleh guna adalah comparing the competitor receivables as a percentage of sales, ataupun examining customer concentration, high risk for highly concentrated customer. This one adalah apabila you hanya jual kepada beberapa customer je, so ada high risk lah sebabnya ada high chance that customer yang you jual tu tak mampu bayar, dan bila dia tak mampu bayar, dia akan affect your whole business sebab customer you tak ramai, concentrated. Okay. And then computing and investigating trends in average collection period of receivables and compare with the industry's credit term. And then the last one, you might want to determine the portion of receivables that are renewals of prior accounts or notes receivables. Yang mana yang dia renew. Maksudnya dia bukan hutang yang baru, dia carried forward. Alright, next adalah the analyzing receivable in term of authenticity of receivable. Untuk determine sama ada receivable tu authentic, maksudnya betul, sahih ataupun tidak, you kena aware of the knowledge of the industry practice and supplementary sources of information for added assurance. So apa maksud authentic? Dia lah genuine, maksudnya sahih, due, bila dia punya due, and enforceable, kita layak nak enforce dia. Maksudnya kita berhak untuk get the receivables amount. So one factor that affect authenticity is the rights of merchandise return. So ni adalah yang factor yang akan affect sama ada benda tu authentic ataupun tak, adalah hak untuk memulangkan barang. Especially macam industri like magazine, textbook ataupun toys. Sometimes the customer enjoy the rights of merchandise returns. So kalau kita in a magazine industry, kita letak magazine kita dekat kedai buku, so that kedai buku ada hak anytime untuk return balik kalau benda tu tak laku. So benda tu akan affect kita punya authenticity lah, sebab that kedai buku dia kira tak berhutang lah kita kalau dia pulang balik benda tu. Okay, hence our analysis must follow this return privilege. So you kena take note siapa yang ada this return privilege. Okay, so returns can also impair the quality of receivables. So yeah, of course lah, sebabnya kalau they are able to return, then you punya receivable akan kurang lah, because they are no longer berhutang dengan you. Betul tak? Next adalah the scrutinizing the receivables. This one adalah looking further on the receivable balances. So analyst must also aware that sometimes company dia jual semua ataupun sebahagian daripada dia punya receivable kepada third party, which is what we call as factoring. So this receivable, they can be sold with or without recourse to a buyer. Recourse maksudnya the guarantee for collectibility. Sale without recourse does not effectively transfer risk and rewards to the buyer. Okay, so receivables can be struck off the SOFP bila company tu jual receivable dan surrender all control over the receivables to the independent buyer. So as long as there is recourse, okay, recourse maksudnya guarantee of collectibility, the company must cap the receivable as asset and compensating liabilities for the amount sold. Apa benda ni maksudnya? Sometimes company dia akan jual dia punya account receivable tu kepada bank untuk dapatkan short term loan. Okay, bila dia jual kepada bank, dia akan jual yang high quality account receivable lah. Maksudnya orang yang mungkin high chance lah dia akan bayar balik dekat kita, the account receivable. So, bila you jual tu, kalau you jual dia termasuk recourse, maksudnya recourse ni you guarantee bank mesti boleh collect balik duit daripada account receivable tu. So, bila you ada recourse, you tak boleh keluarkan dia daripada SOFP. Maksudnya you kena carry dia punya receivable tu sebagai you punya asset dan you kena take into account the liability yang amount yang you jual tu. Okay, but on the other hand, kalau kita jual je terus account receivable tu, kita jual je terus ke bank, lepas tu kita tak ambil tahu dah boleh collect ke tak, kita tak peduli. So in that case, kita boleh strike off the receivable from our current asset. Okay, clear? Kalau tak clear, nanti tanya balik dalam our discussion. The next current asset adalah prepaid expenses. Prepaid expenses ni rasanya semua orang tahu kot. Tapi kalau suruh define mungkin susah sikit. Betul tak? So, it is an advance payment for services and goods not yet received. So, you bayar dulu untuk servis dan barang yang you tak terima lagi. For example, of prepaid expenses are advance payment for rent, insurance, utilities and property taxes. So, yang ni adalah advance payment. Let's say sekarang bulan 11 tapi you dah bayar siap-siap sewa rumah untuk bulan 12. So that will become you punya prepaid expenses because you tak guna lagi, you tak duduk lagi rumah tu pada bulan 12. Betul tak? Sebab bulan 12 belum lagi. So that lah. And then how to analyze the prepaid expenses? The non-current prepaids are sometimes included among prepaid expenses classified as current. When their magnitude is high, they need to be scrutinized. Okay, maksudnya okay, it means that the amount of prepayment, when that is a big amount, you kena look further. Apa benda dalam the prepaid tu? So, any substantial change in prepaid expenses need to be scrutinized. So, kalau ada perubahan daripada last year, contohnya last year 10,000, this year tiba-tiba jadi 100,000. So, ada perubahan besar dalam prepaid expenses. So, you have to look further. What caused the increase in the prepaid expenses? Moving on, this is inventories. Inventories adalah goods held for sale or goods acquired or in the process of being ready for sale as part of the company's normal operation. Rasa inventory ni mungkin you boleh muntah kot bila dengar banyak-banyak kali. So, they are valued based on 3 methods which is FIFO, LIFO and weighted average. So, semua orang tahu kot FIFO. FIFO adalah first in, first out. Which the first unit yang you purchase ataupun you produce, you akan jual yang tu dulu. Kalau LIFO, your last unit yang you beli ataupun yang you produce, you akan jual yang tu dulu. Kalau weighted average ni, dia jual je tanpa kisah yang mana-mana dulu. Okay? Sebab dia punya cost lah weighted average. If the company is using FIFO inventory method, so the oldest cost that inventory yang you beli earlier, dia akan dijual dulu, right? So, yang tu akan jadi you punya cost of goods sold. The recent cost, which is inventory yang you baru je beli, yang tu akan stay as part of your ending inventory. Betul tak? Sebab first in, first out. So barang yang sampai dulu, yang masuk dulu, dia akan keluar dulu sebagai you punya cost of goods sold lah. Yang ni yang you akan matching dengan revenue untuk dapat gross profit. But yang recent purchase you, yang you baru beli, baru masuk dalam store, yang tu yang akan stay sebagai ending inventory. So biasanya the recent cost biasanya higher because of inflation and whatnot lah. Okay. This is LIFO method where the recent cost, inventory yang you baru beli tu dia akan dijual dulu. So inventory yang last in akan jadi the cost of goods sold. Inventory yang lama, yang lebih terdahulu, dia akan stay sebagai ending inventory. So you akan ambil inventory yang baru masuk, keluar dulu. Last in, first out. Okay. So dia opposite lah dengan FIFO. Then the last one, this is the easiest one lah, I rasa. Weighted average. Bila a unit is sold, the average cost of each unit is inventory is assigned to the cost of goods sold. So macam mana nak kira you punya per unit inventory cost? You akan ambil cost of goods available for sale in total, bagi je dengan units yang available for sale. So dapatlah inventory cost per unit. Okay, dia tak guna FIFO, dia tak guna LIFO, but it use weighted average. This is just to show you dekat mana position inventory dalam SOPL, sebab I rasa tak mungkin you lupa, tapi sebab kita kena cover kan, so kita cover lah benda ni. Right, so this is opening inventory kat sini. Then you akan tambah dengan purchases. So, you akan dapat cost of goods available for sale. Lepas tu, you akan tolak dengan closing inventory. So, dapatlah cost of goods sold. Okay. So, this equation can also be rearranged as opening inventory, campur purchases, tolak COGS, dapatlah closing inventory. Betul tak? Ataupun, kalau you nak move kan COGS ni, sebab dia negatif kan, you nak move ke belah sini. So, opening inventory plus purchases equal to closing inventory plus COGS. Clear? This is a simple illustration untuk costing method, inventory costing method. So, first one adalah, you ada opening inventory on the January 1st. You ada 40 units dengan nilai satunya $500. So, dapat $20,000 here. And then, inventory purchase during the year, you ada 60. So, 60 times dengan 600. You baru beli, nilai dia baru 600 per unit. So, you dapat 36,000. And then, cost of goods available for sale will become 100 because this 40 tambah dengan this 60. So, dapatlah 100. So, total ni adalah 20 campur 36. Dapat 56. So, note dekat sini dia kata dia jual 30 units are sold in year 2 for 800 each for the total revenue of 24,000. So, dia jual 30 unit dengan nilai 800 satu unit. So, dapatlah 24,000. So, therefore, you tahulah closing inventory dia ada 70 unit. Because asal-asal dia 40, dia baru beli 60, lepas tu ada 100. Dia jual 30, tinggallah 70. Right? So, now kita nak illustrate kalau dia guna FIFO dan juga LIFO. So kalau dia guna FIFO, dia punya cost of goods sold will be 30 darab dengan 500. Right? Sebab dia jual 30. Harga yang dia beli, sebab dia ambil FIFO, dia ambil the earliest one, the oldest one. The oldest price adalah 500. So, dia dapat COGS sebanyak 15,000. Dan untuk kira closing inventory, okay, dalam dia punya oldest unit tu, dia ada 10 lagi baki, betul? Sebab ni dia ada 40 sebenarnya. Lepas tu dia jual 30, so tinggallah 10 kat sini dengan harga 500. Dan untuk yang you baru beli, purchases yang baru beli tu 60 unit darab dengan 100. So, darab ni tambah, dapatlah 41. Okay, so unit available for sale 100 yang tadi. COG AFS, cost of goods available for sale adalah 56. Masih lagi 56. If you add these two, faham tak? 15 campur 41 masih lagi 56. Unit dia masih lagi ada 100, 30, 60, 10. 100. Ni kalau guna FIFO, bezanya dekat harga dekat sini. Okay. Kalau you guna LIFO, maksudnya you akan ambil unit yang you recently purchase. So, you punya COGS akan jadi 30 darab dengan 600. Sebab sebelum ni, harga dia 5, but the recent purchase is 600 per unit. So, you dapat 18 here. And then, daripada 60 tu, dia tinggal lagi 30 dengan harga 60. Lepas tu, dia ada lagi 40 yang ni yang oldest one yang kita tak usik dengan harga 500. So, dapatlah 38. So, the total for here, 38 campur 18 would be 56,000. The units here still unchanged. 30 plus 30 plus 40 dapat 100. So, you can see from here that FIFO dengan LIFO ni beza dekat macam mana you ambil the cost of goods sold dia dengan macam mana you value dia punya closing inventory. Okay. Moving on, kita nak tengok kalau dia guna weighted average. So, how would that be? So, kalau guna weighted average, you ada cost of goods available for sale 56,000. Unit dia ada 100, so dapatlah 560. With this, you akan ambil nilai yang sama sebab you dah weighted average kan dia. So, COGS lah 30 times 560, so dapat 16,800. Closing inventory adalah 70 darab dengan 560. So, dapat 39,200. Bila you totalkan dua ni, dapat 56 balik. You totalkan 30 dengan 70, dapat 100 balik. It's actually quite easy to understand lah. Okay. Right. This one adalah the illustration of how to get the net profit out of, the gross profit out of our equation here. So, kalau guna FIFO is the beginning inventory is 20,000, net purchases is 36, equal to cost of goods sold 15, and the inventory 41. So, this 15 kita akan letakkan dekat sini. Letak di sini untuk kita dapatkan the gross profit. So, sama jugalah dengan LIFO. Cuma bezanya dia ambil figure LIFO punya lah. Okay. The beginning is still 20. The net purchase is still 36. It's just that the cost of goods sold dengan ending inventory is different. Dia akan based on our calculation dekat previous slides. Right. So, I tak go further lah on this one. You can look at it on your own. Next, we're going to look at the FIFO versus LIFO, the effect on profitability, SOFP, and also cash flow in the period of rising prices. Okay, masa harga tengah naik, FIFO akan report higher gross profit daripada LIFO because lower COGS are matched against sales revenue. Sebab kenapa lower COGS? Sebab dia kan ambil kos yang lama, kos yang earlier tu biasanya lagi rendah. So, dia akan dapat higher gross profit in the period of rising price. FIFO reports higher assets than LIFO because FIFO records higher cost inventory, which is inventory consists of goods that are purchased at a later higher cost. So, dalam inventory dia akan report higher asset sebabnya dalam FIFO, inventory yang tinggal adalah harga yang recent. So, dia lagi tinggi harga dia. Right? And on effect on cash flow, FIFO akan reports a higher profit because of what? Because it's higher profit, so dia kena pay tax. So, more cash outflow, therefore, the cash balance is lower. So, direct effect dia on cash flow, cash balance is lower lah. Tapi kenapa lower? Sebab dia kan report higher profit. Kalau higher profit, kena bayar higher tax. Kalau higher tax, maksudnya kena bayar lebih banyak cash outflow. Okay? Right, so the summary is that kenapa FIFO ni gross profit dia lagi tinggi, because it's actually a sum of two component, which is an economic profit and a holding gain. So gross profit FIFO ni lebih tinggi sebab ada dua faktor ni. First one, dia dapat economic profit sebab dia ada untung jual kan. Dan satu lagi, dia ada holding gain. So economic profit dia bila dia jual 30 unit dengan harga 800. Okay, so dia punya cost adalah 600, so dia dapat 6,000. Cost yang sekarang, maksudnya kalau dia beli inventory tu sekarang, nilai dia 600, so dia dapat 6,000 sebagai profit. Holding gain dia adalah sebab dia kan pegang inventory tu lagi lama, maksudnya masa dia beli tu harga dia murah 30. Okay, darab dengan 600 ni, tolak 500. Yang ini adalah beza dia 100. 100 ni lah holding gain dia. So, dapatlah 3,000. Okay, faham ke tak? Kalau tak faham, nanti tanya dalam kelas deh. Okay, so untuk LIFO, dia akan jadi opposite lah dengan FIFO. Right? Okay, we are going to introduce to you the long-lived asset. Asset yang hidup lama. Non-current. Okay, so the definition of the long-lived asset adalah resources that are used to generate revenue or reduce cost in the long run. So that long-lived asset tu adalah tangible fixed asset, which is property, plant and equipment, intangible asset, which is patent, trademark, copyrights and goodwill, and also the deferred charges like research and expenditure, research and development, expenditure and natural resources. So this long-lived asset ni, dia kena capitalize. So capitalization ni adalah the process of deferring costs that is incurred in the current period whose benefits are expected to extend to one or more future period. Okay, bila kita ada PPE ataupun kita ada intangible, kita ada deferred charges, kita kena capitalize those. So bila kita capitalize, kita akan anggap dia tu sebab dia akan bagi benefit in one or more future period. Dia bukan bagi benefit in year 1 je, year 2, year 3 sampailah dia punya habis useful life. So untuk eligible for capitalization, the long-lived asset ni dia kena meet the following criteria. So first criteria adalah it must arise from past transaction or event. It yield identifiable and reasonably probable future benefits. Mesti dapat benefit. Kalau tak ada benefit, kenapa nak capitalize, right? By expense je. And it allow owner to have control over the future benefits. So, benefits yang asset tu akan bagi, owner mesti ada control over that. Kalau dia tak ada control, then it's not dia punya asset. Kenapa bother nak capitalize ataupun tidak, right? And then kita akan tengok on allocation. Allocation ni adalah the process of periodically expensing a deferred cost of the asset to one or more future expected benefit period determined by benefit period, salvage value and allocation method. So allocation ni macam depreciation je sebenarnya. Tujuan kita buat depreciation adalah untuk defer cost tu. Cost untuk year 1 adalah sebanyak depreciation untuk year 1 lah. Cost untuk year 2 adalah sebanyak depreciation year 2. So the terminology used are depreciation kalau the tangible non-current asset, dan amortization untuk intangible asset, dan depletion untuk natural resources. So sebenarnya tiga-tiga ni related dengan depreciation, cuma dia tak panggil depreciation untuk semuanya. Okay. So, I ada bagi example kat sini, the cost of toy vending. You guys mesti pernah main benda ni dekat shopping mall, right? Masa I muda-muda dulu, ada juga menang beberapa ekor binatang daripada dalam ni lah, soft toys. So, the cost of toy vending adalah 100,000. The useful life adalah 10 years. So, our question yang pertama adalah, adakah dia asset? So, the answer is yes, it is an asset. Can we capitalize? Since dia asset, so kita akan capitalize. Yes. Next, kita kena allocate tak cost dia over few years? Yes, melalui depreciation. Right? So, how much depreciation charge per year? Kita kena tengok useful life of the vending ni. So, vending ni can be used up to 10 years. So, macam mana nak kira depreciation? Is 100,000 bahagi dengan 10 years. So, dapatlah 10,000 per year. So, this is how you depreciate a tangible non-current asset, one of the long-lived asset, which falls under PPE, property, plant and equipment. Okay. Next, we're going to look at impairment. So, impairment adalah process of writing down the asset value when its expected cash flow are less than its carrying value. So, impairment adalah apabila the expected outcome ataupun cash flow daripada aset tu lebih kecil daripada dia punya carrying value ataupun book value. So, kita kena write down the value of the asset. Okay, it would not perform as well as we expected ataupun as well as we record in our book. So, there are two distortions can arise from impairment. First one lah conservative bias that distort long-lived asset valuation because assets are written down but not written up. Okay, so asset ni biasanya kita write down kecuali land lah. So masa you write down tu, how do you know that you write it down to the correct amount? So itulah maksud dia. Ada bias lah. Kalau asset tu asset kita, contohlah kereta I yang buruk tu, okay, I pakai kereta Saga FLX tahun 2011. So, bila I check dengan insurance, nilai dia adalah 12,000. Tapi, bagi I personally, nilai dia dah kurang daripada tu. So, kalau I nak jual dia, I rasa I takkan dapat 12,000. Sedangkan 12,000 tu dia punya book value. Tapi cash flow dia, I rasa mungkin adalah 8,000 je. But, siapa yang sebenarnya berhak untuk determine? Sebab kalau I untuk jual aset tu, I mesti ada bias. I mesti akan rasa macam, okay, kalau boleh aku nak jual sebanyak mungkin. Mungkin 11. Kalau bukan 12 pun mungkin 11. Tapi in real, the value is, the book value is high, but the willingness of people to pay, the cash flow yang I expect daripada the sale from my kereta is actually low. So, I ada bias lah sebab tu kereta I. Alright, next. Adalah large transitionary effect from recognizing asset impairment distort net income. So, kalau impairment tu nilai dia besar, dia akan mengecilkan dia punya net income. Sebab impairment ni expenses. Kalau dia besar, maksudnya, dia akan mengurangkan you punya net income. Next, kita nak tengok on plant asset. So, plant asset ni adalah those tangible assets which actively used in operation, which expected to benefit in future periods, such as the property, plant and equipment. So, first, I nak discuss tentang how to determine the cost of plant asset. So, kalau you nampak ni adalah kilang yang comel, right? So, the acquisition cost, kalau kita nak determine dia punya cost, kita akan ambil the acquisition cost. Acquisition cost tu akan termasuk, first one adalah purchase price. Berapa harga yang I bayar untuk aset tersebut. Let's say, this kilang ni adalah 1 million ringgit. And also, I kena bayar all expenses needed for the intended use. Apa-apa perbelanjaan untuk membolehkan plan ni berjalan dengan sempurna, So, I kena include dalam my acquisition cost. Contohnya, insurance, tax, land leveling. Contoh dia adalah 500,000, let's say. So, land leveling ni maksudnya ratakan tanah. Sebelum I buat kilang ni, I kena ratakan tanah dululah. Ataupun sebelum I, do the landscaping ni, I kena ratakan tanah dulu. And I kena bayar insurance, I kena bayar tax on property and what not. Therefore, my acquisition cost akan jadi 1.5 million. So, this acquisition, dia kena exclude the financing charges and also cash discount. Okay, so kalau ada discount, you akan keluarkan siap-siap. Baru you recognize you punya cost. Next, we're going to talk about the valuation analysis. So, valuation emphasizes the objectivity of historical costs, the conservatism principle, and accounting for the money invested. So, limitation of using historical cost. Bila kita record menggunakan acquisition cost, kita sebenarnya menggunakan historical cost accounting. And dia ada limitation, which is, first, the balance sheet does not reflect the market value. Yes, because dalam balance sheet kita, dalam SOFP kita, kita akan record carried down value. Right? So, tak semestinya carried down tu adalah market value. Right? And then not especially relevant in assessing the replacement value. So, the information is not relevant masa you nak assess the replacement value. Kalau you nak dapatkan aset yang sama, menggunakan historical cost ni takkan menjadi information yang useful. Okay? Masa aset yang sama, takkan dapat harga yang sama macam you punya aset yang sekarang yang you pegang tu. Not comparable across company, of course lah, sebab different company has different asset. Therefore, they purchase at different times. So, macam mana nak compare? Next, kita nak tengok depreciation on plant asset. Depreciation adalah the process of allocating costs of a plant asset to expense in the accounting period, benefiting from its use. So, depreciation ni adalah masa kita nak allocate cost kepada plant asset tu. Bila kita beli asset, kita tak expensekan semua pada year 1. Kita akan splitkan dia punya cost kepada berapa useful life dia. So, inside the balance sheet, kita akan record the acquisition cost dan juga the unused amount. So, kita akan allocatekan depreciation, kira depreciation. The depreciation kita akan expense dekat income statement. This one akan represent, these expenses ni, dia akan represent berapa ringgit ataupun berapa nilai yang kita dah guna asset tu. Okay. Kalau you rasa tak faham, you boleh tanya balik lah. Tapi rasanya tak logik lah budak accounting tak faham depreciation. Kalau tak faham, hantuk kepala kat dinding dulu baru boleh tanya dalam discussion. Okay. Next, kita nak tengok factors in computing depreciation of plant assets. So, first factor dia adalah cost. Untuk kira depreciation, kena ada cost dia lah, baru tahu berapa nilai asal dia. Then, kita kena ada salvage value. Kalau ada nilai scrap from that, kita kena tolak dulu. Then, kita kena tahu useful life, baru boleh allocate over berapa years. And then, kita kena determine our depreciation method. Right, depreciation method comparison. So, untuk straight line, dia sebenarnya annual depreciation expenses je. So, macam mana nak kira is cost tolak dengan salvage value bahagi dengan useful life. So, dapatlah annual depreciation expenses. So, itu adalah straight line. Okay, ada satu lagi cara which is accelerated method ataupun double declining balance rate method. Dalam textbooks ada. So, macam mana nak kira accelerated method? You kena kira dulu the straight line depreciation rate. You akan ambil 100%, which means you takkan tolak di salvage value. Okay, ignore salvage value. So, step 2, you akan ambil 2 kali the straight line depreciation rate. So, the depreciation expenses adalah the double declining balance rate darab dengan the beginning period book value. Ini cara nak kira untuk accelerated method. Okay. Next, kita nak move on macam mana analyst nak analyze depreciation and the depletion of plant asset. So, if you are the analyst, you akan assess the reasonableness of depreciable base, the useful life and allocation method. Okay, reasonable ke tak cara yang diguna, useful life yang dia ambil. Okay, then you review any revision of useful life. Ada tak dia revise balik useful life dia? Kalau dia revise, kenapa? Adakah nilai aset tu, nilai hayat dia makin panjang, so you tambah? Ataupun dia pendekkan nilai aset tu contohnya? Next ialah you evaluate the adequacy of depreciation. The ratio of depreciation to the total asset or to other size-related factor. Cukup ke tak depreciation tu? Berapa ratio dia nisbah kepada total assets? Next adalah you analyze the plant asset age. Sometimes asset ni dah habis useful life dah, tapi kita masih lagi guna dia, right? But the fact is that kalau kita masih guna dia, walaupun dia dah habis useful life, dalam account kita mesti nilai tu dah kosong. Okay, so you kena analyze the plant asset punya age. Next, nak move on tentang intangible asset. Rasanya majority of you know about intangible assets. I hope. So, intangible asset lah often provide exclusive rights or privilege. Dia non-current without physical substance. Dia tak boleh pegang sebab intangible kan. Tapi dia adalah non-current assets. Usually acquired for operational use. Useful life is difficult to determine sebab kita tak nampak intangible ni, so kita susah nak tentukan dia punya useful life. So, macam mana nak record for intangible asset? The value is recorded at cost, including the purchase price, the legal fee and the filing fee. So, examples of intangible asset adalah patents, copyrights, leasehold. Apa ada leasehold 2 ni? Alamak, salah lah ni. Improvements, goodwill, trademarks, and trade names. Types of intangible asset, kita ada identifiable and also unidentifiable. Identifiable ni dia macam boleh identified separately dengan yang lain ataupun dia ada specific rights or privilege of having limited benefit period macam patent, trademark, copyright and franchise. So patent, trademark, copyright ni biasa dia ada tempoh macam 20 years macam tu je. So dia ada tempoh limited benefit period. Next adalah unidentifiable, non-identifiable and often possess indefinite benefit period either developed internally or purchased. For example, goodwill. Goodwill ni ability to attract or retain customer or quality inherent in the business activity. Goodwill ni nama baik. Nama baik ni ability to attract customer. Dia macam kalau I jual KFC tapi I buat SFC. So depan you ATM, sepatu sebelah kedai adalah KFC, you akan pergi kedai ataupun KFC. So, you mesti pergi KFC kan sebab KFC dah ada goodwill. I ni ada nama sendiri je. So, goodwill is recorded only upon purchase of another entity. So, bila goodwill ni recorded, bila you beli another entity dengan nilai yang lebih besar daripada dia punya asset. So, the lebihan tu adalah goodwill. Analyzing intangibles and goodwill, since benda ni adalah benda yang tak nampak. So, nak cari dia often misvalued and most likely exists off balance sheet. Maksudnya sukarlah nak cari. Kalau ada pun nilai dia mungkin tersalah value, misvalued. Examine for super earnings as evidence of goodwill. Super earning macam income yang terlalu banyak ataupun earning yang terlalu banyak. Itu maksudnya goodwill lah sebabnya orang datang kat dia tu tak tahu kenapa. Seramai sangat orang. Mesti sebab goodwill. So, kita akan examine the super earnings. Review amortization periods. Any likely bias in the direction of less amortization and can call for adjustment. So, untuk intangibles and goodwill ni, kita kena amortize setiap tahun. So, kita kena review sama ada tak bias ataupun dia terkurang amortize. So, you kena adjust lah. Recognize that goodwill has limited useful life whatever the advantages of location, market dominance, competitive stance, or sales skills or product acceptance, they are affected by changes in the business. So, goodwill ni, nama baik ni pun dia ada limited useful life. Okay, so dia takkan selama-lamanya ada kat situ. Dia akan affected by the change in business. So, finally we did it. Since practice makes perfect, so I need you to do July 2020. Soalan yang ada letak kat sini, you buat je lah semua sebabnya soalan ni sikit je. 1, 2, 3, 4 dan 5. Alright, so kita akan discuss this question in our next meeting. Bukan next meeting. Faham tak? Okay lah korang, thank you for listening and paying attention. Of course, I appreciate semua punya attention dan juga kalau you ada masalah, please jot down. Nanti kita akan discuss dalam group discussion. Alright, bye.